I never thought I'd be the guy whose wife cheated on him. I always considered our marriage strong, built on mutual respect and love. Her name is Jennifer, and we've been married for about 7 years. We met in college, both wide-eyed and filled with dreams. She was the life of the party, always charming and bubbly, and I fell for her infectious laughter and adventurous spirit. We built a life together that seemed picture-perfect. A cozy little house in the suburbs, a dog named Max, and plans for kids someday. But lately, things had changed. Jennifer had been distant for months. At first, I justified it as work stress. She had been pouring herself into her job at a marketing firm. I noticed her coming home late, her phone buzzing nonstop, and an increasing number of girls' nights that seemed to stretch longer than they should. When I'd ask her about it, she'd roll her eyes and brush me off. "You're being paranoid," she'd say, a slight smirk on her face. Being the good husband, I tried to ignore the nagging feeling that something wasn't right. I wanted to trust her, to believe in our love. I offered to cook dinner more, to take her out, but all I got were half-hearted responses. There were days I felt like a ghost in my own home. She'd be there, but her mind was somewhere else entirely. Then came the day I stumbled upon something I would have preferred to remain in the dark about. It was a Saturday afternoon, and I decided to clean up the house. I went into our bedroom to put away some laundry when I noticed her purse sitting open on the dresser. Curiosity got the best of me. I rummaged through it, hoping to find nothing but lipstick and receipts. Instead, I found her phone, the screen lit up. I picked it up, heart racing, and that's when I saw the messages. "I can't stop thinking about our last time together," one read. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Another message followed: "Can't wait to see you again. I'll make sure the house is empty." My hands shook as I clicked through the messages, realizing they weren't from any of her friends. They were from a guy named Eric, a plastic surgeon no less. My heart sank. I felt sick. The world around me blurred. I confronted her that evening when she returned home, her makeup still fresh from a day out with her friends. I threw the phone on the table and demanded answers. The look on her face was a mixture of shock and annoyance, as if I had disrupted her perfectly planned day. "What is this?" I spat, my voice trembling with barely contained rage. Her immediate reaction was defensive. "You're being ridiculous. It's just some guy. We're not doing anything." She snapped, but I could see the guilt in her eyes. I pressed her harder, forcing her to admit the truth. It took all I had to remain calm as she eventually confessed. "Okay, fine, we've been seeing each other for a couple of months, but it doesn't mean anything." Those words sliced through me. It doesn't mean anything. I could feel the anger bubbling over, intermingled with disbelief. I had been a good husband. I had supported her, loved her, and devoted myself to her. And here she was, reducing the affair to nothing more than a casual fling. Her excuses poured out in a torrent. "You don't understand how stressed I am. We were drifting apart anyway. You've changed." Each justification felt like daggers. I wanted to scream, to make her feel the pain she had inflicted on me, but I was too shocked to respond. I felt my world collapsing as the truth settled in. The emotional impact hit me like a tidal wave. I went from disbelief to fury, then to an aching sadness that settled deep in my bones. I spent the night pacing the floor, my mind racing. I didn't want to lose her, but I couldn't shake off the betrayal. I thought about our vows, the dreams we shared. They felt meaningless now. I had to make a decision. In that moment of heartbreak, I realized that I needed to reclaim my life. After everything, I couldn't just sit back and accept this betrayal without a fight. But what would that fight look like? I didn't know yet, but I was determined to figure it out. In the days following the confrontation, I felt like I was living in a fog. I went through the motions of work and daily life, but everything felt surreal. I'd see Jennifer moving around the house, acting as if nothing had changed, while inside I was wrestling with a storm of emotions. The sight of her was both a comfort and a trigger. I kept replaying our conversations, her lies echoing in my mind like a broken record. I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. The worst part wasn't just the affair. It was the fact that she had the audacity to downplay it. I wanted to scream at her, to make her feel the weight of what she had done. But I also desperately wanted to understand why. Did I really mean that little to her? Did our years together amount to nothing? I decided to become more observant. I wanted to know what Jennifer was doing when she wasn't home, who this Eric guy was, and if their relationship was still ongoing. I started by tracking her phone usage. I wasn't proud of it, but I felt I had to know. I downloaded an app that would notify me of her location, and I felt a mix of guilt and determination. I was in the middle of a battle for my happiness, and I needed to know my enemy. One Friday night after she claimed she had a work dinner, I checked the app. I saw that she was at a bar downtown. At least she had told me the truth about the dinner. It was just a cover. My heart raced as I drove over to the bar, parking a few blocks away and walking toward the entrance. I told myself I was just going to observe, but deep down, I knew I was looking for confrontation. As I approached the bar, I spotted her through the window, laughing with a group of people. My blood boiled as I recognized Eric, that smug plastic surgeon who had wormed his way into her life. They were sitting close, their bodies angled toward each other, their laughter mingling in the air. I felt sick as I watched them share drinks, the intimate glances they exchanged like daggers to my heart. Just then my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a text from her. "Hey babe, running late, don't wait up." I could hardly process it. She was lying to me, and there I was, watching her with another man. The fury bubbled over and I pushed my way into the bar. "Jennifer," I shouted as I strode towards her, the crowd parting from me like the Red Sea. The look on her face was one of horror and disbelief. Eric's smugness faded as he realized who I was. "Mark, what are you doing here?" Jennifer stammered, her face paling. Eric looked between us, clearly uncomfortable. "Nice to meet you, man," he said, trying to play it cool, but I could see the tension in his posture. "Cut the crap, Jennifer. You're here with him, aren't you?" My voice was steady, but I could feel my heart pounding as I stood my ground. She looked around, her expression shifting from shock to annoyance. "This is so embarrassing. Can't you just let it go? I told you it was nothing." "Nothing," I echoed incredulously. "You're here with him, laughing, sharing drinks. You think this is nothing?" The anger in me was palpable, and I could feel the eyes of the entire bar on us. I felt exposed yet empowered. "You lied to me. You disrespected our marriage. This isn't just some silly fling, Jennifer. This is real." She opened her mouth to respond, but I wasn't about to let her spin this. "You think I'm going to just stand by and let you pretend everything is fine? You need to choose right now. Do you want a marriage or do you want this?" I gestured toward Eric, who stood there awkwardly, unsure of how to react. Jennifer's eyes blazed with anger. "You don't get to control me. I'm not your property." I felt a rush of adrenaline, anger, and pain. "This isn't about control, it's about respect. You've shown me none." "I can't do this right now," she said, her voice rising as she turned towards Eric, pleading silently for backup. I stepped closer, my voice low but firm. "You will do this right now. You made your choice. Now it's time to face the consequences." The tension in the air was thick, and for a moment I wondered if I had gone too far, but I didn't care. I needed her to understand the gravity of her actions. I needed to expose the truth. Our conversation escalated, emotions running high, and as she continued to deny the depth of her betrayal, I realized that this was not going to be an easy fix. I wouldn't be able to just hug it out and pretend it didn't happen. There was a chasm between us now, and it felt insurmountable. The fight ended with her leaving with Eric, and I stood frozen, heartbroken and furious. I had exposed her lies, but I hadn't gotten the closure I needed. I went home that night feeling like a raw nerve, my mind racing with thoughts of revenge and what to do next. I wanted to make her feel the weight of her choices. I wanted to make her regret this affair, but I needed a plan. The next morning, I woke up with determination in my bones. I needed to turn this pain into something constructive, something that would help me reclaim my life. I began to plot my course of action, knowing that I couldn't back down now. It was time to show Jennifer what it truly meant to lose. After the confrontation at the bar, I felt a strange mix of relief and anger. I had finally confronted her about the affair, but I also felt as though I was standing on the edge of a cliff, ready to leap into the unknown. As I sat in my living room the next day, the reality of my situation hit me like a wave. I was no longer just Mark, the husband. I was Mark, the betrayed husband, and I had to figure out how to reclaim my life. I started to think about what I wanted. It became clear that I couldn't let this go. I couldn't simply ignore the betrayal and allow her to waltz back into my life as if nothing had happened. For a long time, I had been the good husband, the supportive partner, but now I had to put myself first. I needed to show Jennifer that there were consequences for her actions, not just for her sake but for mine as well. I decided to take a step back and reassess everything. I couldn't just jump into some grand act of revenge. I needed to be strategic. I spent some time reflecting on what made our relationship work in the past. I realized that Jennifer had always been drawn to excitement and adventure. She loved spontaneity. Perhaps I could use that against her, but in a way that would ultimately serve my own goals. I reached out to a couple of my close friends, people I could trust, and shared what had happened. They were shocked, offering their support and encouraging me to do what was best for me. I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. With their encouragement, I realized I needed to re-enter the dating scene and show Jennifer that I could thrive without her. I wanted her to see me as someone capable of moving on, not just a victim of her betrayal. After a few days of wallowing in self-pity, I signed up for a dating app. I was nervous, but excitement coursed through my veins as well. I filled out my profile honestly, mentioning my interests, my love for hiking, and my passion for cooking. I wasn't looking for a serious relationship right away. I just wanted to meet new people and regain my confidence. One evening, I matched with a woman named Sarah. She had a warm smile and a love for the outdoors that mirrored my own. We chatted for hours, discovering shared interests and laughing over our mutual love of bad puns. I felt a spark of interest I hadn't felt in ages. After a few days of texting, we decided to meet for coffee. When I walked into the cafe, I was a bundle of nerves mixed with excitement. Sarah was even more charming in person. We spent hours talking, and after that first date, I felt invigorated. It was refreshing to connect with someone who valued real beauty over the artificiality that Jennifer had chased. I found myself drawn to her authenticity, something I realized I had been missing in my life. Meanwhile, Jennifer continued her affair with Eric, but I kept my distance. I didn't want to engage with her unless absolutely necessary. Instead, I focused on my own life. I went on more dates with Sarah, and as our connection deepened, I felt my confidence rebuilding. I was slowly starting to understand that I could be happy again, even without Jennifer. But I wasn't done with my plan for revenge just yet. I wanted Jennifer to see me thriving without her. I started posting pictures on social media, hiking adventures, evenings out with friends, and of course, the occasional candid shot with Sarah. I wanted her to watch me live my life fully, to see that I was moving on. Soon enough, I began to hear whispers from mutual friends. I'd catch snippets of conversations where they'd mention my newfound happiness. "Have you seen Mark's photos? He seems so much better. And it's amazing how he's bounced back after everything." I could almost picture Jennifer's reaction, seething with jealousy as she scrolled through her feed, seeing the man she once took for granted thriving without her. But through all this, I kept reminding myself that this wasn't just about revenge. It was about my own healing. I wanted Jennifer to realize the weight of her choices, but more importantly, I was focused on redefining my own identity apart from her. I was no longer the husband who tolerated infidelity. I was a man who deserved love and respect. When Jennifer reached out a few weeks later, I felt a mixture of anticipation and dread. "Can we talk?" she texted. I could sense her desperation, but I had no intention of letting her back into my life without a fight. I agreed to meet, but I made it clear that I needed to set the terms. When the day came, I found myself filled with a mix of emotions. I was nervous, but also empowered. I hadn't just been sitting around. I had taken active steps to reclaim my life, and I was ready to confront her once again. I thought about how I would approach the conversation. I needed to be firm but fair, showing her that I was no longer the man she could manipulate. As I waited for her at the cafe, I felt a surge of determination. I would not let her rewrite the narrative of our relationship. I was ready to confront the reality of what she had done, and I wanted to make it clear. I was moving forward whether she was ready or not. When Jennifer walked into the cafe, the air felt charged. She looked different, more polished, her hair perfectly styled and her makeup flawless. But beneath all that I could see the cracks. Her eyes, usually so vibrant, were clouded with uncertainty as she scanned the room, finally locking onto me. For a brief moment, I felt a flicker of the love I once had for her, but it was quickly overshadowed by the reality of her betrayal. "Hey," she said, her voice tentative as she slid into the chair across from me. There was a nervousness in her demeanor that I hadn't seen before. For a moment I thought she might apologize or show some sign of remorse, but she quickly fell back on her habitual charm. "It's been a while." "Yeah," I replied, keeping my tone neutral. "Things have changed a lot." "I know," she said, her expression shifting. "I've been thinking a lot about us, about everything." Her eyes bore into mine, searching for a reaction. I remained silent, letting the weight of her words hang in the air. I wasn't about to give her an easy way out. "I realized I made some mistakes," she continued, her tone shifting from defensive to almost vulnerable. "I let work stress and other things get in the way, but I want to fix this, Mark. I miss you." My heart sank. Her words felt rehearsed, as if she had practiced them in front of a mirror. "You miss me, huh? Is that before or after you were out with Eric?" The bitterness seeped into my words, and her face flushed with embarrassment. "Mark," I was confused. I didn't know what I wanted. She protested, throwing her hands up defensively. "We were drifting apart and I thought it would help to have some excitement." "Excitement?" I scoffed. "You thought cheating on your husband would bring excitement. It's called an affair, Jennifer, not a midlife crisis." She inhaled sharply, the defensiveness fading to something closer to sorrow. "I know I messed up. I was blinded by that thrill, but I never meant to hurt you. I love you, Mark, I always have." I felt a pang in my chest. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to hear the words I had longed to hear since the day I found out about her betrayal, but I couldn't ignore the fact that love alone was not enough to erase what she had done. "What about Eric?" I asked, my voice steady. "Are you still seeing him?" Her hesitation spoke volumes. We ended it. He wasn't what I thought he was. I got caught up in the fantasy," she admitted, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I realized that what I really want is you, Mark. I want us back." I took a deep breath, feeling a mixture of anger and sadness wash over me. "You don't get to rewrite this narrative, Jennifer. You made your choice. You chose to betray the trust we built over the years. You chose to hurt me." I paused, letting that sink in. "And now you think that just saying you're sorry is enough." "Please, just listen to me," she began, but I cut her off. "No," I said firmly. "You wanted excitement and you thought it would be fun to experiment with someone else. Well, guess what? I'm in a place now where I'm building my own excitement, my own life. I've started dating again." Her face fell, and for the first time I saw genuine pain flit across her features. "What do you mean you're dating?" "Her name is Sarah," I said, watching her reaction intently. "We've been spending time together. She's kind, funny, and honestly, she values real beauty, something you seem to have lost sight of in your quest for thrills." Jennifer's eyes widened, and I could see the wheels turning in her mind. "You can't be serious," she said, her voice rising. "You're moving on just like that." "Why shouldn't I?" I challenged. "You made your choice. You decided to throw away everything we built together for some temporary excitement. I wasn't sitting around waiting for you to realize what you've lost. I'm reclaiming my life, Jennifer." I watched as she leaned back in her chair, her expression shifting from anger to despair. She was finally processing the reality of the situation, one that I had been living in for weeks. "So, this is it then. You're just going to walk away?" "I don't know," I admitted, feeling a rush of uncertainty. "I'm not going to pretend that our history doesn't mean something, but you need to understand that trust is earned, not given freely. You've shattered mine, and I'm not sure I can rebuild it." Jennifer's voice trembled as she spoke. "I want to work on this. I'll do whatever it takes. Just give me a chance." "Chance? You want a chance?" I couldn't help the bitterness creeping into my voice. "You've had your chances, Jennifer. You've had them for months while you were sneaking around behind my back. You need to realize that. There are consequences for your actions." Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. "I know I've hurt you, but I'm willing to go to counseling to work on myself. I want to be better for you, for us. I'm ready to commit." I felt torn. Part of me wanted to reach out and comfort her. The part of me that had loved her fiercely, the part that still held onto the hope that we could find a way back to each other. But another part of me, the one that had been shattered, was screaming for me to protect myself. Jennifer, I said softly, searching for the right words. I can't promise you anything. I need to see real change, real effort on your part. I've started moving on and I won't let anyone drag me back into the pain you've caused. She nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. I understand, just please don't shut me out completely. I'll fight for you, for us. I sat back, grappling with the weight of her words. I didn't want to shut her out completely, but I also needed to protect myself. We'll see, I finally said, feeling the burden of uncertainty settle over me. But know this, I won't be waiting around for you to decide what you want. I deserve better. As I left the cafe, I felt a tumult of emotions. I was proud of myself for standing firm, for refusing to be a victim. I had taken control of my narrative, and no matter what happened next, I was moving forward, whether that meant with Jennifer or without her. I was determined to build a life filled with joy, authenticity, and real beauty, no matter where it took me. The days that followed my confrontation with Jennifer were a whirlwind. I felt a strange mix of empowerment and uncertainty. I had made my stance clear, yet I was still grappling with the emotional fallout of the entire situation. I had opened the door just a crack, and now I was left wondering whether I should let her back in or firmly shut it for good. I continued to see Sarah, and the time we spent together was refreshing. She was genuine and open, qualities I had come to value deeply. Our conversations were effortless, and I found myself laughing again, something I hadn't done in what felt like ages. Yet despite this newfound happiness, I couldn't completely shake the weight of Jennifer's presence in my life. Her texts had become more frequent, each one containing apologies and pleas for a chance to prove she could change. One Friday evening, I met Sarah for dinner at a cozy Italian restaurant. As we chatted over pasta, I felt lighter than I had in months. "You seem more relaxed," she observed, her eyes sparkling with interest. "What's going on?" "You look like a weight been lifted off your shoulders." "It's been a process," I admitted, nodding. "I'm finally taking control of my life again. Just had a difficult conversation with my ex, and I think I'm starting to understand what I truly want." "Good for you," Sarah said, a warm smile spreading across her face. "You deserve to be happy. Life is too short to settle for anything less." As the evening wore on, I felt myself opening up more than I had anticipated. I shared snippets of my life with Jennifer and how the affair had shaken me to my core. "It was a hard wake-up call," I said, "but I'm starting to see it all as a necessary step towards growth. It pushed me to evaluate what I want in a relationship." "Sounds like you're on the right path," Sarah replied, her tone supportive. "Just remember that healing takes time. Don't rush anything." Her words resonated with me. I was determined to move forward, especially after what Jennifer had put me through. But I also knew that I needed to take it one day at a time. Later that night, as I lay in bed, I received a text from Jennifer. "Can we talk? I want to show you I can change." Part of me wanted to ignore her message, to focus on the new beginning I was building with Sarah. But another part of me felt the pull of unresolved feelings, the nagging question of whether there was a path to forgiveness. I tossed and turned, my mind racing with possibilities. Finally, I closed my eyes and made a decision. I would meet her one last time. I wanted to see if she was genuinely committed to making amends, or if this was just another round of empty promises. I texted her back, agreeing to meet at a nearby park the next afternoon. When I arrived at the park, the sun was shining and the air was crisp. I spotted Jennifer sitting on a bench, fiddling with her phone and looking nervous. As I approached, her eyes widened and she stood up to greet me. "Thanks for coming," she said, her voice tinged with apprehension. "Let's get straight to it," I said, taking a seat beside her. "What do you want to say?" She took a deep breath, her expression earnest. I realized now how much I took for granted. I was so caught up in my own needs that I completely disregarded yours. "I'm sorry for everything, Mark. I know I can be better. I've started going to therapy to work through my issues, my need for validation and excitement." I raised an eyebrow, skeptical yet curious. "Therapy, that's a big step." "I know," she replied, her voice steady. "I didn't think I had a problem until I found myself making choices that hurt the people I love. I don't want to be that person anymore." I studied her face, searching for signs of sincerity. "You say you've changed, but how do I know it's not just talk?" I understand why you doubt me, she said, her voice breaking slightly. But I want to prove it to you. I'm committed to working on myself, and I know it's going to take time. I just want a chance to show you that I can be the partner you deserve. I sat quietly, processing her words. It was hard to reconcile the woman sitting in front of me with the one who had shattered my trust. If I'm honest, it's difficult for me to even consider this right now. The pain is still fresh, and I can't just forget it. I know, and I wouldn't expect you to, she replied earnestly. All I'm asking for is a chance, a small one. I want to demonstrate that I can be a better partner. I miss you so much, and I'm willing to fight for us. I felt a stir of compassion mixed with anger. I wanted to believe her, but I was also aware that I had to guard my heart. What does fighting for us look like exactly? I asked, trying to gauge her intentions. Open communication, honesty, and really listening to each other, she responded. I want us to go to couples therapy together. I want to rebuild trust from the ground up. Couples therapy, I repeated, letting the idea sink in. That could be a good start, but I need to see action, not just words. You've hurt me badly, Jennifer, and I can't just jump back into this. I understand, she said, a hint of desperation creeping into her voice. I want to earn back your trust. I want to show you that I can be the woman you fell in love with. I nodded slowly, feeling the weight of her statement. I'm willing to consider this, but I need time. I need to see that you're serious about making changes in your life. I won't be rushed or manipulated again. Jennifer met my gaze, her eyes shining with determination. I'll do whatever it takes, Mark. Just give me a chance to prove it. As we parted ways, I felt a sense of closure wash over me. I was cautious but hopeful. I didn't know what the future held, but I was ready to explore it, whether that meant rebuilding my relationship with Jennifer or continuing to build a new life without her. I had taken the first step toward healing, and now it was time for both of us to put in the work. With my heart guarded yet open to possibilities, I knew I was finally on the path to reclaiming my happiness, regardless of the outcome. I was ready to face whatever came next, confident in the knowledge that I was worthy of love and respect. As the days turned into weeks, I cautiously embraced the process of healing and self-discovery. Jennifer and I began attending couples therapy, and at first it felt like a minefield. Every session unearthed hidden feelings and unresolved issues. But slowly, we started to communicate more openly. Jennifer was genuinely putting in the effort. She was committed to changing her behavior and understanding the hurt she had caused. During our sessions, we navigated the complexities of trust. It was tough to hear her recount her thought processes during the affair, but I also found it valuable to understand her motivations. She was deeply insecure, chasing validation through external sources rather than nurturing our relationship. It was painful to hear, but it provided context to her choices. I realized that both of us had neglected aspects of our relationship, allowing resentment to ferment until it exploded into betrayal. Outside of therapy, I continued to see Sarah. Our connection remained strong, and she understood the complicated situation I was in. I was open with her, explaining that I was working on my marriage while also trying to figure out my feelings for her. Sarah was supportive, urging me to take the time I needed to sort through my emotions. She never pressured me, which only deepened my appreciation for her. As I continued to navigate the intricacies of my newfound relationship with Jennifer, I began to see glimpses of the woman I had fallen in love with years ago. She was making an effort to change her habits and prioritize our relationship. We began to share more quality time together, laughing and reminiscing about our early days. There were moments of genuine connection, but each one was tinged with the reality that things had fundamentally changed. One evening, after a particularly productive therapy session, Jennifer and I found ourselves sitting on our couch, sharing a bottle of wine. I've been thinking, she said, her voice softer than usual. What we had before, our love, our dreams, it wasn't a facade. I just lost sight of it for a while. I nodded, feeling a rush of conflicting emotions. I remember the good times, Jen, but I also can't ignore the pain. Rebuilding means acknowledging both. I know, she replied, her gaze steady. I'm not asking you to forget. I just want to work towards something real together. I want to earn your trust back step by step. It was a crucial moment, one that made me reflect on my own journey. I had transformed from a man overwhelmed with hurt and betrayal into someone who was actively reclaiming his happiness. I realized that I didn't solely want to rebuild with Jennifer. I wanted to be happy with or without her. As the months passed, I found myself at a crossroads. Jennifer continued to put in the effort, but I still felt the weight of uncertainty. I had grown through therapy and dating. I had rediscovered my sense of self, and I was no longer the man who would settle for less than he deserved. Then came a moment that changed everything. One afternoon, while I was enjoying a hike in the mountains, I had an epiphany. I felt a sense of clarity wash over me. I loved Jennifer, but I also needed to love myself first. I realized that I was ready to make a choice, not just for her or for us, but for me. When I returned home later that evening, I knew I had to have a serious conversation with Jennifer. She was sitting at the kitchen table, looking through some notes from our therapy sessions. I took a deep breath, preparing myself for what I needed to say. "Jen, I've been doing a lot of thinking," I began, my voice steady. "I appreciate all the effort you've made, and I can see that you're genuinely trying to change, but I also know that I can't just focus on rebuilding our marriage. I have to consider what I want too. I've grown, and I need to be honest about where I stand." Her expression shifted from curiosity to concern. "What do you mean?" "I want to be happy, and I want to be in a relationship where both people are committed to each other fully. I've been seeing Sarah, and I genuinely care about her. I think it's only fair to be transparent about my feelings." Jennifer's face fell, and I could see the heartbreak in her eyes. "So, you're saying you want to explore that? I think it's time for us to take a step back. I don't want to hurt you, but I also can't ignore my own feelings. It wouldn't be fair to either of us if I tried to force something that may not work anymore." The silence that followed felt heavy, but it was also liberating. I had taken control of my own narrative, and I felt empowered by my choice. Jennifer nodded slowly, tears welling up in her eyes. "I understand. I just wish things had turned out differently." "Me too," I said softly. "But we can't change the past. What we can do is choose our futures." In the weeks that followed, we both took the time to heal separately. I continued to see Sarah, and our relationship blossomed in a way that felt genuine. Meanwhile, Jennifer focused on herself, engaging in therapy and rediscovering her passions. We remained in contact, supporting each other from a distance, knowing we both had a long road ahead. Reflecting on the entire experience, I realized that heartbreak had ultimately led to growth. I had learned the value of self-worth, the importance of communication, and the need for authenticity in relationships. I had been through the fire, but I emerged stronger and more resilient. As I look back on my journey, I'm reminded that life is unpredictable. It will throw challenges our way, but it also offers us opportunities for transformation. I learned that I am worthy of love, respect, and joy, not just from others, but from myself. And as I walk forward, I carry that lesson with me, ready to embrace whatever comes next.